Well, good morning. Good morning. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Let me get a microphone check, if I would. Make sure. I should have did this beforehand. I apologize. And welcome to Live Abundantly Institute, LAI. I am your host, Passa Bobby. Um, we look forward to those that will be joining us in on this podcast broadcast on this evening. We'll be coming to you live every Wednesday evening as the Lord give us strength, and my availability is available to have this class. And the purpose of this class tonight is about developing your discipline to live abundantly. That's right, developing your discipline to live abundantly. Uh, Last week's lesson, just for a quick overview or review for those of you all that missed it, and those of you all that was here, I always have taught in series, and so I want to just go back and hit some highlights of last week's lesson, and that is we came to the understanding that the word discipline, disciplina, and the actual Hebrew and the meaning of discipline is where we get the word disciple, which means student and learner of God. And so we understand that in reality, we must be one who studies in order to be a student or in order to be disciplined. We must study. The key point of last week's lesson was that we study ourselves so we are able to achieve abundant living. And in studying ourselves, we find out where our areas of opportunity are. And William Shakespeare said it so perfectly for us that uh, to thy own self be true, which he stated in the play in Hamlet, which simply means what he was saying is that you should value your own self esteem above all else, and that if you are honest with yourself, you will not lie to others. So be true to thy own self. Don't lie to yourself, and you won't lie to others. Our background scripture, for those that like a scripture, well, for this lesson and this series, is Matthew 16 and 24. He says, if any man will come after me, let him first deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. So one of the key principles to living the abundant life is that you must be willing to deny yourself of some things in order to achieve the abundant life. Okay, in order to achieve abundant life. Good evening, Sister Young. Also, our other background scripture is John 10 and 10, which says, the thief cometh but to steal and kill and to destroy. In other words, he uses their undisciplinary areas in order to achieve this. But the scripture goes on to say that Jesus said, I come that you might have life and that you may have it more abundantly. So these are our background scriptures that we use for this series and opening up Live Abundantly Institute. Tonight's lesson, I want to help you develop your discipline. I want you to help you to develop your discipline. Every one of us have our different areas of vulnerabilities when it comes to being disciplined. And if you go back to last week's lesson, I said whatever Pastor Jackson's point is, whatever area that you're undisciplined in, that's where the enemy can attack, and that can hinder you from either maintaining a abundant living lifestyle, or it can hinder you from achieving it. So in that prism of it, every one of us have different vulnerabilities where we find ourselves that we may be undisciplined in. Also said last week, the areas that we were most focused and disciplined in were the areas that we could look back over our life and we found our most success. So I can be successful in different things in my life, very successful because I'm focused, I'm disciplined, and I do those things that are required for me to be successful. But the area that I'm vulnerable in, or those areas that I have vulnerability in, are the areas that I'm undisciplined, I'm unfocused. And that's what I found over the years of my life with the areas that were I was vulnerable in. Those things that are the things that hindered me or knocked me out for a season of living abundantly. Is that all right? So it will this lesson and this series and abundant living will not is not a one size fit all. However, I'm only here merely to provide you with a guide in order for you to overcome the obstacles that you may have in your undisciplined area, in your undisciplined areas, and to keep you on the journey to live abundantly. Remember, I wanted you to remember, very important, as I've found out and I can testify to, that abundant living is a state of mind and a state of being. Often we look at it as just the material things, but it's really a state of mind and a state of being. Paul said in Philippians, the fourth chapter, the 11th through the 13th verse, section B says, I know how to be abased and I know how to be abound. Everywhere and in all things, I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, okay, both to abound and to suffer need. So Paul was basically saying here that, look, I know how to live on the top of the mountain, or I can be on the lowest of the mountain, but wherever I'm at, I've learned that I'm in a place of content. I'm in a place of abundance because wherever the Lord is, that's where I can thrive at if everything else is in check. And so I want you to understand that one of the principles that you have to have, whether you have it all, is not about your social economical status. It's not about your class status. It's not about the type of job you have. Abundant living is about a state of mind and a state of being. No matter what area that I find myself in life, I can live abundantly. Okay. And I am living abundantly. So, point number one on tonight, I got about 4 points, and hopefully I won't run through them too fast. If I do, I'll try to slow myself down, or y'all let me know in the chat. Okay. But number one, you must find your motivation. You must find your motivation. In other words, you must find your why you want to live abundantly. Okay, you got to find your why. It has to be a why that's more that is so strong that you can taste it. Okay, it's so desirable you want to touch it. It's so drawing you want to see it. Okay, it's so phenomenal. It just puts you in awe. But whatever it is, you want to find your motivation of why, and then after you find your motivation, why is that important for you? Why is it important for you as your coach on tonight? I want to know, why is it important for you to live abundantly? Why is that so important to you? Okay, are you tired of being stressed? Maybe you've been living a life of stress because you thought you'd be further along in life than what you are. Okay. Maybe things are just you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you have medical bills, or you have different things that you've gotten yourself overextended in, and you just feel all this pressure, and you're not, and you're faking the funk, right? And I've been there to where it appears that you're living abundantly, but you're really up under stress, okay? And you're really struggling to manage day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. Maybe you're worried about, you want to live the abundant life because you're worried about your physical elements, okay? Whether it be this or that, whether it be a bad doctor's report, or you're anticipating a generational thing that has happened in your family, a sickness or a disease that has ran in your family for generation to generation. You say, I want to live above that. What is your why? I want you to really think about that as you reflect on, what is your why? Why do I want to live abundantly? Why should I want to live abundantly? Maybe you want a home. Maybe you've never owned a home. No one in your family has owned a home. And maybe that is a motivation for you to show that you're living abundantly, or that you have accomplished something that no one else in your family has accomplished. Okay, but what, maybe that's your why. I don't know what your why. I'm just listing some things to give you an example of what can be your why. You may want the blessings of God, right? You want the blessings of God made manifested in your life. Now, I can testify to this because there was a point in my life that I seen everybody else being blessed, and it seemed like they were living abundantly, and they had it going on. I'm talking about in the material world. I'm not talking about in the spiritual realm. I'm just on what I could see, and I equated that to living the abundant life. And so I said, well, okay, God, if I'm your child, if I'm your son, and I'm serving you, why isn't the abundant life being made manifest in my life? Seems like I'm living out of a state of almost poverty and a state of lack. So I had to get a motivation of why I wanted to live abundantly. Okay, so maybe yours that you want to see the blessings of God made manifest in your life. And I'm here to tell you, you can get the blessings of God made manifest in your life. And by the end of this series, it's gonna all tie in together. Okay. Is it because it's a hindrance to you in your relationships? Okay, can testify to that one too. It can be a hindrance in your family relationships. It can be a hindrance between you and your spouse, or you and your children. Okay, that is hindering you from living abundantly, or maintaining abundant life. Okay, there's been too many times that parents, we love our children, and there's nothing that we won't do for our children and our grandchildren, that we'll put everything on the line for them and risk our level of comfort that we're at. And sometimes it sets some family members back to where they go from a place of barely making it or living in abundance to a place of lack because they were willing to do that. Okay. So, nevertheless, whatever, these are some whys that I want you to think about. What is your why? You must have a motivation of why you want to live abundantly. You have to have a motive. That it has to be a thing that wakes you up in the morning, makes you pray, makes you go on and do whatever your vocation is, whatever your job is. Serve the Lord with gladness. Work as you work up unto the Lord in order to live abundantly by means of in this world that we must live. Okay. Number two, you must learn to take small actions or small steps. Okay. You must learn to take small actions or small steps that will lead you to accomplishing your why. Okay. When you are disciplined over the small things, you become equipped to have the discipline to accomplish the greater things in your life that you desire to do. If I'm not disciplined over the small things, I will not be disciplined I will not have the discipline that it takes to accomplish the bigger things, because I'm hoping that whatever your why is something big, something that you have to, it's taking faith for you to be able to achieve. And so if I understand the scripture right, Matthew 5:23, after Jesus had gave them the story of the talents, and he returned, he said, the Lord said unto them that he had given the talent, well done to the one, thy good and faithful servant, thou hast been faithful what, over a few things, I will make you rulers over many. So it's in our discipline. If we go back to the things that we were successful in, that we were disciplined, we were focused, we could accomplish greater things than what we probably thought we can accomplish. But whatever area to live abundantly, you're going to have to demonstrate the ability and the focus and the stick-to-itiveness to what? Learn to take small actions. I would often tell my staff when I was in financial services, and we would get our budgets for the year, and the budget would be like way out there to them. But to me, I had to look through the eyes of faith, and I would say, and it was an old saying that's not my saying, but it say, how do you eat an elephant? And they would say, I don't know, Robert. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's how you eat an elephant. So the small actions that's going to lead you to success will get you to taking bigger chunks of that elephant a little bit later. But on the way, it's going to teach you some things, some character traits, some disciplines that you know that once you master those, there's nothing that you cannot accomplish through the help of God if you stay focused in that area